And in fact, this is in NTI. If you want to look it up, it's actually in NTI Luke chapter 6. But what Holy Spirit told me is that if I am not at peace, I am wrong, period. Whatever thoughts are in my mind at that time are false thoughts, mistaken thoughts. We could call them obstacles to love's presence. And that's just the bottom line. So what that means is if I am not at peace, I am wrong. There is no question. And there is no place for the ego to argue for the missed thoughts. And so what Holy Spirit asked me to do is when I'm upset to know that I'm wrong. I absolutely am. And then to go to Holy Spirit and look at the thoughts with the Holy Spirit. And many of you know me, so many of you know that my most common practice is to write down the thoughts. Whenever I am upset, the way I put them outside of my mind so that I'm not just thinking about them over and over and over again is I grab a piece of paper and I write whatever thoughts are in my mind down. And I just write and write and write until I feel empty. You know, sometimes it's only one or two thoughts, but sometimes it might be 2 pages of thoughts. It really just depends. And then I look at them with Holy Spirit. And literally, Holy Spirit in me always shows me how I'm wrong. Now, I know some people are offended by the idea of being wrong, and maybe this process doesn't work for them. Maybe they need the gentler process that Lisa was talking about. But I'm actually happy to be wrong. And the reason I'm happy to be wrong is because the thoughts were bringing me pain. The thoughts were bringing me some type of pain. And if I am wrong about those thoughts, then I can let them go and I don't have to experience the pain. So I'm very happy to be wrong. One example, and I know this is a story many of you have heard before, so I will keep it quite short this time, although I'll share enough detail if there's someone in the room that hasn't heard it. But one example is when I had the thoughts that Laurent was rejecting me. This was a time when he and I had seemed to be romantic for a time, and then he suddenly turned off completely. Oh, good, he's in the room, so he'll know this story. He suddenly turned off completely, it seemed like. And I felt very, very rejected. And I felt a lot of pain. Now, again, I've told you that Holy Spirit has taught me that when I am in pain, I am wrong. Now, see, this was a situation, again, maybe if my mind had said, is it possible that these thoughts are wrong, my ego would have argued for proof that Laurent was rejecting me. It would have pointed at everything he was doing, and I would have stayed in pain. But what happened is I already had learned from Holy Spirit that if I am in pain, I'm the one that's wrong. So what I did with Holy Spirit when this feeling of rejection came upon me is I went and I wrote down the feelings. I wrote down everything I was feeling about the seeming rejection. And Holy Spirit asked me, first of all, it was a very interesting first question once I wrote everything down, have you been here before? And as soon as Holy Spirit asked me, have you been here before, I immediately saw, past rejections all in my mind, like all at once. Everyone I had ever felt rejected by. And Holy Spirit said to me, then you can agree that this idea of rejection is in your mind. And at this point, I'm still arguing a little bit. I still feel that Laurent is truly rejecting me, but I could at least give my willingness to see that it was just an idea in my mind. And Holy Spirit went on to point out to me, remind me again that if I am in pain, it is because of something in my mind. And Holy Spirit told me that whatever Laurent was doing, that was not what was causing me my pain. It was actually a belief I had in my mind. And Holy Spirit made up a cute little word. He called it the belief in rejectability. He said it was my belief in my own rejectability that was causing my pain. And what he asked me to do as a practice in this particular purification is he asked me that whenever I felt this pain, to remind myself it was not what Laurent was doing. It was my own belief in rejectability that was hurting me. And I did this for, it seems like, several weeks. There was this pain that I was being rejected. And I would remind myself, I was very consistent. I think this is probably important. I was very consistent. I really did not, after my discussion with Holy Spirit, ever go back to fully believing that Laurent was hurting me. That was only before the discussion. After this discussion, I really stuck with the idea that Laurent is not hurting me. What is hurting me is my belief in rejection, or my belief in my rejectability. And I just silently reminded myself of this every time I felt that pain. At that time, it felt a bit like a broken heart. And then I remember one day, I knew I was healing. I was out with my dog and my daughter, and I remember that pain was still there. But what I felt in the middle of the pain was actually a bit of light. And I knew then that it was healing, and within 2 or 3 days it was completely gone. And when I say it was completely gone, I'm not referring to the pain. I'm referring to the belief in rejection. And you know, when Lisa was speaking, she talked about when an idea is purified, it is also purified in the past. And what happened instantly was not only was my belief that Laurent was rejecting me healed, but all past rejections were instantly healed. I mean, literally the belief in rejection was healed. What I saw, the best way I can put this into words, is what I saw is that whenever there was an appearance of rejection in my life, what was really happening was that my brother, the one who appeared to reject me, my brother was simply caught up in listening to the ego. Somehow that became very impersonal for me. You know, rejection is a very personal thing. He is rejecting me. But the scene that my brother is just caught up in listening to the ego is a completely different way of seeing. And in fact, what it did with Laurent was really different, because before, when I believed that Laurent was rejecting me, I felt very pushed away. But when the belief in rejection was healed, although immediately Laurent's actions did not change. They did eventually, but immediately they did not. But it became, he wrote, it became a call for love then. And this is just not a matter of words. This is what actually happened. When I believed that Laurent was rejecting me, I saw him pushing me away, not wanting me around. When the belief in rejection was healed, I actually heard Laurent asking me for help. I heard my brother really wanting help. It was a completely different perception, and I was no longer hurt, and I became very compassionate, and I had a desire to help him. So this was one example, just one little example of a purification. And my experience so far has been that I've had several purifications, which means several key false beliefs. Key false beliefs that I have held on to have been healed. And the way that I know that they're healed is that I am completely done with them. I mean, like